According to the authors of the Urantia book, Jesus had a normal childhood, very like that of any other Jewish boy of that day. He helped with chores at home, attended the synagogue school, and when older began to learn his father's trade, carpentry. Though he was gradually becoming aware of his dual nature, he performed no miracles until after the beginning of his public ministry. Because of Mary's visit by Gabriel and Joseph's dream, both Mary and Joseph believed that Jesus was a child of special promise. He was strong-willed, spiritually inclined, and intelligent as well. He was an obedient child, but things that he said or did sometimes bothered his parents. Jesus loved music, art, and nature. He learned to play the harp and often entertained groups of neighbors with his playing. He loved to roam the hills around Nazareth, observing the plants and animals. Jesus did exceedingly well in the synagogue school. In fact, he was one of the Chazan's most able students. But his love of art brought him into conflict with his Jewish religion and culture when he was 9 years old. Here is the story as told by the authors in paper 124 of the book. The most serious trouble as yet to come up at school occurred in late winter when Jesus dared to challenge the Chazan regarding the teaching that all images, pictures, and drawings were idolatrous in nature. Jesus delighted in drawing landscapes as well as in modeling a great variety of objects in potter's clay. Everything of that sort was strictly forbidden by Jewish law, but up to this time he had managed to disarm his parents' objection to such an extent that they had permitted him to continue in these activities. But trouble was again stirred up at school when one of the more backward pupils discovered Jesus drawing a charcoal picture of the teacher on the floor of the schoolroom. There it was, plain as day, and many of the elders had viewed it before the committee went to call on Joseph to demand that something be done to suppress the lawlessness of his eldest son. And though this was not the first time complaints had come to Joseph and Mary about the doings of their versatile and aggressive child, this was the most serious of all the accusations which had thus far been lodged against him. Jesus listened to the indictment of his artistic efforts for some time, being seated on a large stone just outside the back door. He resented their blaming his father for his alleged misdeeds, so in he marched, fearlessly confronting his accusers. The elders were thrown into confusion. Some were inclined to view the episode humorously, while one or two seemed to think the boy was sacrilegious, if not blasphemous. Joseph was nonplussed, Mary indignant, but Jesus insisted on being heard. He had his say, courageously defended his viewpoint, and with consummate self-control announced that he would abide by the decision of his Father in this as in all other matters controversial. And the committee of elders departed in silence. Mary endeavored to influence Joseph to permit Jesus to model in clay at home, provided he promised not to carry on any of these questionable activities at school. But Joseph felt impelled to rule that the rabbinical interpretation of the second commandment should prevail. And so Jesus no more drew or modeled the likeness of anything from that day as long as he lived in his father's house. But he was unconvinced of the wrong of what he had done, and to give up such a favorite pastime constituted one of the great trials of his young life." End quote. In this episode, we can see that Jesus is developing a strong and fearless personality, and we can see the beginning of his disillusionment with the inflexible and sometimes unreasonable system of Jewish religious laws and customs. Episodes like this helped shape his attitudes towards his Jewish culture, but he never lost his love of art. Many years later, Flavius, a Greek Jew, was surprised when Jesus expressed appreciation for the man's art collection. Jesus explained that the Jews had taken Moses' rule against graven images to an extreme by banning all art.